What are you and him and I gonna do on an individual basis? That's what I'm getting at.
But that's what I'm saying. You keep thinking that you as an individual has no power. But that's not true.
But you're the one who said that with
no,
I'm not saying.
No, what I'm saying is you make an attempt like Nelson Mandela. Right? Nelson Mandela.
He had an individual attempt.
He had a
the
movement.
ANC
was
working,
a leader of a movement.
Like, the ANC was working probably for like easily 2 or 3 decades.
Yeah, Malcolm X was a leader of a movement. MLK was a leader of a movement. Nelson Mandela was a leader of the movement. We don't remember the individual
well, I don't know
members
about 2
of
or
the
3
movement.
decades, obviously. That's, I think 2. Yeah, from the 50s at least. The
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about my about the timeline of that. But that's where I'm trying to distinguish events and individuals.
But that movement has to start with a leader.
That movement coalesces and a leader emerges.
It's not top
movement
down.
leaders emerge. Yeah,
it's never top down.
Otherwise, if you want top down, you're gonna keep on waiting.
Top
or
down
you gotta go and be that leader.
Top down movements end up like being like Bernie, Imran Khan.
When the leader is gone, everything is gone.
Yeah.
These populist grassroots.
It starts from the bottom.
Okay,
I
agree.
But
grassroots.
It starts from the bottom. The most bottom is honestly like people get out and I think for me like I was at a protest a couple of weeks ago and the guy's like how does this make sense? You're out here screaming, yelling, and he was with me. He's just a friend. He's just like a constructive criticism, I guess. And it's like, dude, if everything is messed up, then the rational thing is to just go outside and start yelling at random shit. And it's like, yeah, well, is that a productive, use of time? Well, I mean, is there a CNN truck parked outside waiting for you to like answer questions or some shit? Like, no, right? Like the only way you have is just get out on the street and hopefully like yell at cars like, hey, help me out or some shit. If you were in that dire of a situation, which I guess we would say we are, if there's like tens of thousands of like kids dying every day. I honestly feel like this criticism that keeps on emerging, this is a validation for all the people putting in the legwork. Like all the criticism, hey, this is not good enough, this is not productive enough, we're looking for short-term outcomes for something that, this is only a support system, right? The actual movement is happening in Palestine.
Yeah.
And right here, like you said, spreading awareness on college campuses or on street corners is honestly the only thing you can do.
But that's what
unless you just want to like grab a semi-auto and like do some crazy like.
No,
white
I'm not
shit.
saying grab a semi-auto and start killing.
Trying to go to war with a semi-auto, there you fucked up already.
No, but what I think is that I personally, again, that's my opinion. I think in general, what's happening right now is wrong with Palestine, and everyone agrees to killing babies isn't the right thing. And the fact that you have to go out and protest for that, it shows the mindsets that are out in the world, right? World. Yeah, but that's the problem, right? And that's why are you having to protest for haqq?
Because that's the nature of the world.
Responsibility.
Why did Cain kill Abel? No, you can go out like if you want to do that.
The whole the responsibility on you will always be if you're trying to lead something. It's like that's basically leading. Like you have to carry it on your shoulder.
Yeah,
and be like, explain the most obvious things to like people you would not expect to have to explain this to. But
the word you used is struggle, right?
Yeah, but again, it keeps coming back to the same thing.
Okay. Let me ask you guys both a simple question. You both are Shias, right? Yeah. You both follow the route of the Ahlul Bayt, Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam. So when Imam Hussein came to Karbala, right? We all thought that why is it that all these Muslims that were surrounding Imam Hussein's camp, they just saw the whole family getting slaughtered. They were all crying, they were all weeping, and yet the whole family of the Rasul was killed. You
know why? Because they were wondering, man, what can I do?
That's the problem.
Do anything no, that's the problem. Bro.
Like, right.
So
when
we keep on coming out in the street.
So
that was the one day they did not come outside.
No, that's what I'm asking you. That's what I'm asking you, right? Keeping the the conversation towards Imam Hussein. Throughout my life, I thought that. Now, when the Palestinians are dying, we're protesting, we're crying. But are we really letting go of our worldly desires and we're actually making an attempt to, if not go to Gaza, then actually provide something for them where they can survive?
No, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to exert as much force as you can on whoever will hear it, on the media, you're trying to make sure hey, look, at the very basic thing, you going out and protesting is breaking the narrative about Israel's, being a good country, this, that. What the people are seeing, more and more people oppose this. You're bringing light to the issue. At the very least, is that not a good thing? Let's say, okay,
no,
you know what? Let me flip it. Wait. Let me flip this around. Let's not look at this result oriented. Let's pretend like I have no idea whether action X is going to be something that frees Palestine or not. Let's pretend I don't know. There's still an imperative that you can derive from principle rather than from result.
I'm not saying you don't raise your voice.
No. Try to follow what I'm saying, right? I'm trying to flip the scenario, right?
Yeah.
So we're saying like, look, we're having a hard time seeing the connection between the action and the result, right?
Right.
The action, it seems like we keep on doing this. The result is the situation persists. So therefore, how useful is this action? I'm saying this is and again, I'm speaking to a broad phenomenon, right? And not specifically what you're saying, but right. I'm also trying to address that, right? Therefore, should we even do this? Is there a point? But I'm saying another way to derive that is, forget about should we do it based on a result. What if you say, hey, well, here's a principle, which means based on this principle of haq, if we see this, you have to speak out. Not sure what the result is, we're just following the directive, the imperative. Right? In morality, there are like multiple ways that you can come to it, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Speaking out is the right thing to do, and spreading
Speaking
awareness,
boycotting,
doing whatever you can.
For people in Palestine, they're doing that on their end.
Yeah,
for
but
us,
their expectation is that there's support. There's 1.8 billion Muslims around the world.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Numbers wise,
that's right.
But here we are with 2 million people in Gaza, surrounding Muslim countries. Yeah. And they're bombarded and they're being killed, and we have.
What if tomorrow is the one that stops it? What if tomorrow? What if you? So we're saying, look, yesterday it was like this, the day before it was like this. Today we have all these countries; they're not doing anything. What if tomorrow is the time when one country does
because they
like
know
this?
That the system that they've put in place, the whole capitalist society that they put in place, is that. Eventually, these folks will forget and they'll move forward.
No, so why don't we just make it? Listen, why don't we make it easier?
Because
just forget now.
70 years.
Just forget now, but 70 years. Out of how many billions of years of human existence? Did Rome ever fall? Did Rome fall?
Yeah, it fell.
Did the Mughal Empire fall?
Yeah.
Did the Mongols fall?
Yeah.
Did the Islamic Caliphate fall?
Yeah.
Did the Holy Roman Empire fall?
Every empire has fallen. Yeah.
The
So
Persian Empire fell. The British Empire fell. We're getting closer and closer. The British Empire fell as well. The American Empire is only how old?
200 years?
Nah.
150, yeah.
After World War I is when the U.S. started getting a hegemony over the world.
Depends on when you would want to
World War I, so you could say the 20s, 1920s.
I would demarcate it at the Spanish-American War. Took over the Philippines and Cuba. But other people have their own, interpretations.
I would say hegemony, the U.S. became an empire post-World War I. It went on an imperial path, and by World War II, that was the world empire. That was the next empire after the British. And it's only been less than a century.
Well, only
been a century.
Zoom in a bit more because, you could talk about these great empires and these great countries or where the hell.
I'm gonna grab some water. You guys care?
Can you give me one?
Yeah. Go on.
But
you were talking about these empires and whatnot, but you want to zoom in a little bit
on we'll get to it.
You're talking about empires.
But zooming in from that, right, with bringing that back into the Palestine issue, bringing back that into the movement.
Oh, we'll get to it.
I think you were talking about when the U.S. became an empire.
Yeah, he was trying to transition from that.
Oh.
I mean, I guess it can spawn again from. So what I'm saying really was, it was such a short period of time that we have of America even being an empire, as compared to other empires that were around for centuries. You saw them fall. Now imagine if you were there at that time, and you're like, man, for the past 300 years, this empire has been around. It's never gonna fall. and then 200 years later, it falls.
No.
We're 100 years in, brother. We're 100 years in. Only 100 years in. Historical amnesia. Didn't we talk about that earlier in the conversation?
Yeah.
Right? Not to, I'm not trying to like dog on you, rag on you. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, don't take that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying I feel like this is the same thing. I feel like to a degree this is like instilled on us that, hey, bro, look, you are a little man. You cannot. That's. I feel like that is part of the narrative control. Is pushing this idea of like, dude, the powers are too big.
I
that
think,
is the propaganda.
I think where you're talking about the empire falling and all of that stuff. Look. Tomorrow.
Well, step one is Palestine being free.
Yeah,
you know?
let's just put. Let's say Palestine is still being bombarded by the time we die, right? I mean, the first question I'm going to ask is, do I want to die such a death where I wasn't able to make any change? Sure, I went to the protest.
You want to die a death where you did the best you could with the capacity you have.
Yeah, but the capacity is on the basis of what you make your capacity be. Right?
Well, it's also kind of where God puts you, right?
No, so what is it though?
Yeah, that's the discussion, right? What is the actual solution? Sure.
No, I'm not asking the solution. You keep on going around in circles on this. I want to know if the protest isn't good enough. Let's simplify it. What is someone living in this zip code supposed to be doing other than that?
I don't know.
So then you should just go on the street and protest.
So, but then that's something that you have to figure out, and we can't chalk that up to. You can't throw your hands up.
And it's not also like, hey, the Palestinians expect this from you. Yeah, bro, listen to me. I have a family to raise too. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, honestly, like, there's 1.8 billion Muslims. Probably 1.5 of them live under the poverty line or some shit like that. Like the rickshaw driver in Pakistan, he's also Muslim, part of the 1.8 billion. What's his responsibility? What is he supposed to do? He got like 6 kids to feed himself. Right? You're oppressed by the person sitting above you right here in your own zip code, in your own community. So for like any other person to expect that, like for us, I think, and I want to like, I guess, draw that line. It is like you're supporting someone else's movement, but it is their movement. And the huge, like the heavy burden of that the heavy lifting of that will be on their shoulder
100%.
At the end of the day.
100%.
So then, I don't
and
think
it will look bloody.
Yeah, the expectation of an average Palestinian, I don't imagine that to be.
But
hey, there's like 200 million Pakistanis.
Let me counter argue that. Right, you're saying that the 2 million people that live in Gaza, it's their initiative first, and then it falls to their neighbors, and then it expands through the world. Right? I mean,
no.
I'm saying. The fighting, the responsibility is not for anyone else except for them.
Okay, so now let me ask. Now,
I mean, I don't believe that someone for the responsibility to fight isn't. The responsibility to fight isn't on some Indonesian.
He's talking about physically fighting, right? So and that's why I'll ask you again: if the Kaaba was attacked, God forbid, tomorrow. Is it?
Well, that's one thing that we have a theological connection to. This is,
but answer my question.
Theological imperative here.
Answer my question.
Well.
It is.
It's
because your first Qibla is there.
No, it's not. That's not the same thing at all.
Is that why you support Palestine?
No, that's one of the reasons. Yes.
So, but the
what do you mean?
That's these two things.
That's honestly.
I'm just asking. I'm just asking you.
I can't answer.
We need to go one by one.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, because
just answer my question, right?
We go one by one real quick. But yeah, like just to simplify this real quick, that analogy makes no sense.
It does.
No, it doesn't. I mean, you could ask this first and foremost. Would I feel stronger if something happened in Pakistan than Palestine? Yes, I do. If something happens in Karachi tomorrow, a bomb goes off, my heart and my support and what my efforts are primarily will be there. And there's no Kaaba in Karachi. Karachi's probably a shithole. I mean, not to put that out. I love Karachi, guys. But Karachi, I mean, we've all been there. We know how it is. But tomorrow it's like, oh, well, do you care more about Karachi than Palestine? Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah. I mean, why does that? I mean, I'm sure the same applies to
scale. I don't think there's a scale that measures what.
For me, at least, how personally affected would you
personally,
feel?
I wouldn't.
In terms of how personally
I wouldn't differentiate.
Like you have family there. You have.
If I was to tell you,
it would hit different.
There's 200 Pakistanis in the world, and they're waiting right now for the 1.8 billion Muslims in the world to come help them get out of poverty and all this other bullshit. You're like, bro, just do your own shit. What do you mean you're waiting for other people to do it for you?
No, this is
not the same thing at all.
It's not.
but I'm talking about the responsibility. They're not asking you for that kind of help either. I imagine so. But for someone else outside to make that claim, well, hey, what are we supposed to be doing?
Ask the Palestinians themselves. The Palestinians in Gaza themselves are saying, raise your voice. Go out and protest. We see you. We see you. What else do you need, man?
What do you think the expectation is from the leadership there?
We're supposed to support them. It's not on us to do these hypothetical, like, weird, like, what... And I'm not saying that these are bad things to wonder.
No, because they're natural. Again, my mindset is like, you know...
You're supporting them.
Yeah,
right?
Again, so I get what they're saying. They're also saying give us arms and ammunition.
No, they're not telling anybody in America to give them arms and
ammunition. No, of course they're not telling Americans.
Well, I'm talking about you and us, right? We're talking about what we... Remember, the whole thing has been what is our...
And that's what I meant by zooming in earlier. I think we had to do it. Zooming in, this whole thing about this country, that person, this. Listen, bro. What is the average person? Me, you were behind this microphone right here. What is someone? You can't send any money. You're not gonna send arms. That's illegal. You're not gonna break U.S. sanction laws or anything like that. Yeah. So then, what exactly are you going to do? You're gonna shut up, and in your school, if you do it at work, before you get fired, and like you said, your work does suffer. So what exactly can a normal person here who's stuck in that if you're stuck in a capitalist cycle, you're not Gordon Gekko or whatever, you're not Wall Street like, I'm making billions, where's my next million? You're paycheck to paycheck. And that paycheck to paycheck cycle is not voluntary. It's not there's no let me check out of this and go somewhere else. I mean, yeah, maybe some people are privileged enough and they're able to relocate to some village somewhere else. But for the most part, if you have a familial infrastructure here, you're stuck. You're stuck, you better deal with it. And the expectation should be, like you said, what is in your capacity? I honestly, while I think I pointed out to you many times, both of you, the issues in protesting specifically in this country, to say that has not garnered a lot of the current support, I think that would be discrediting it to a very erroneous level. Right? That does not make sense to me, because there's no other force being exerted. Like, people want to pretend these are TikToks from Hamas that are making the support happen. That's not the case. That's not the case. It is the outpouring of social media attention that this is getting from people who are saying, okay, well, can't do anything else. Let's post online. By the way, that is a similar criticism. You post a picture online and you're like, hey, I'm at a Palestine protest. A random guy will ask you, oh, what good did that picture do, bro?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What do you mean that's right?
Someone posted that comment on my picture.
That happened to you?
Yeah, that's exactly what they posted.
Well, that's been happening for us for 10 years.
No,
10 years. In 10 years, and you know what? They're like, hey, what did that do, bro? Well, what did your picture of your, whatever, the bullshit you posted do, right? Same thing. But you, at every level, whatever your capacity is, as soon as you put out what's in your heart, the guy who's not saying shit, he will say, what did that do? What is happening now? That had nothing to do with nothing. See, I'm 50 years old and Palestine's not free yet. And it's like pretending like your lifetime is the lifetime of the universe.
It's a very my time. It's very what's right in front of you. But again,
I think majority of the youth, the conversation we're having.
Youth where?
Everywhere. I think
globally.
Globally, yeah. Even in London when I was there, or when I'm in Pakistan, or I'm in Houston. The first question that comes in mind is, okay, we're doing this, we'll go back to our lives. What's the action that we can take that will have an immediate effect? So
nothing.
I think
the answer is
immediate effect.
And
I
think
your head out of your ass.
How do I live? How do I squat 300 pounds when I just got to the gym today,
bro?
Yeah, and I think that's what the biggest issue is, that people want immediate response,
instant gratification.
If I go to the gym today, I want to become bulky the next hour, right? So obviously it's not going to happen, but there's no sense of direction either. There's no sense of leadership from any of the leaders within the Muslim Ummah.
Well,
right?
You still have to derive your direction, though. That should be something that...
No, but I think majority of how we say that the Muslim Ummah has always had a leader, right? There's never been a point that Allah has left us without a leader, right? And then there's next stages that people are on that support that leader, right? So in this perspective, I think what we're lacking right now as Muslims or in general is that leadership.
So there is no leader right now.
No, there is. I think Ayatollah Khamenei is a leader. I think Ayatollah Sistani is a leader. But politically, I would support Ayatollah Khamenei. But you
just said there's no leader.
No. In general, public mindset.
Okay.
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about generally. Now, generally,
Imam was not a leader.
Yeah.
But he had no public support either.
What was his public support?
No, I'm not talking about public support.
Okay,
I'm talking about people's mindset where they don't see anyone as a leader. Who they can follow. Like, I mean, majority of the Sunnis.
What do you think?
You won't go and they would go, oh yeah, we support Khamenei because he's.
That's true. Like, if you're a Sunni Muslim, and I always wonder that.
And you know, sorry to cut you off, but majority of my Sunni friends, for the longest time, used to think the Saudi king was their leader.
Yeah, and then that broke when the Yemen thing happened.
A lot of Yemen thing happened. Even then,
a lot of people shifted to Erdogan.
Yeah, and then Erdogan. I mean, he's still doing business with Israel. He's still
I always wondered about grown men, grown women calling anyone king or queen. It's like, bro, have some self-respect.
I mean, but that's what I'm talking about, right? We don't have that sense of direction to who a leader should be.
But whose fault is that?
Who is the leader?
Whose fault is that?
And
that's our fault if we choose to stop there. If we choose to say, well, hey, I don't have a leader, I don't have direction, I don't know what to do, again, that's political nihilism. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. Again, I don't think that's fair to ourselves. I don't think that's fair to our future generations.
Also, what is the leadership needed for, again, the responsibility on us, let's say, again, let's just stick to this Palestine issue just for right now. If the responsibility on your shoulders is only to get outside and post something on Facebook, just do it without the leader, bro. Just chill out. You're not doing anything important. Like, just do it. Shut up about this bullshit all the time. Like, what I feel like we mentally like jerk off so much about like stupid shit. I realized that I went to I had a friend in Florida, and I went and a random day they just took a day. They had a bunch of food delivered from Amazon Prime. Like, not food, like, like supplies.
Yeah.
And they went to the park, they just passed it out, had a ice cream on the way back, and that's it. That's their Sunday. And
hey man, that guy is still gonna be homeless the next day.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, like, it felt good because like when in my experience, it's always been like, hey, let's organize this. We'll make an organization. We'll get funding from here. When we get the funding, we'll do this, this, and this, and eventually we'll be doing this. It'll be a repeatable process.
Sometimes you just have to participate.
Yeah, man. And it's like, bro, just stop jerking off mentally. Just stop it.
Just do the thing.
Yeah, and that person can say, I have no leadership. Why should I hand out this hygiene kit to this homeless guy? Maybe keep it for now. Wait till someone says it.
It's easy, man.
I mean, you don't have enough responsibility to need a leader.
It comes back to
you don't have enough responsibility on your shoulder to need a leader. If there was an armed conflict happening in Yemen right now, they have their leadership in place, and they're doing their thing for the past decade as well.
Yeah.
Or like then obviously you're like, okay, we don't have a leader. We're screwed. But here, when all you're doing is like trying to get 500 people out in the street corner, or maybe post a Palestinian flag as your default picture or whatever. Leadership is not the issue. Just do what you can. And again, like for me, I'm a Pakistani American. And for like any injustice, around the world is connected to the Palestinian cause. Like, it's voiced all over. But my primary, like, for me, the movement obviously is all encompassing. At the same time, that conflict is not my main concern. Right now, in this time and place, it is. But overall, we have things to take care of. The responsibility of the movement that's on your shoulders is different than a Palestinians, because, I mean, you're not Palestinian.
Well, that's self-evident, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to that. You're not Palestinian. You're not Arab.
You're not in the situation. There's a certain responsibility that you have based on, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, again, that's how I like that, analogy. I mean, and that's, again, since we were talking about mentally jerking off, let's do it real quick. Like, this, like, thing we have about this Ummah and all that, and I'm trying to summarize a lot of this conversation because we were all over the place for a while.
Yeah, we had a lot of different things going on.
Like, I find that such a Pakistani thing where, like, I do not find this outpouring of, like, Arab support in the streets and black people and Chinese people and white people in the streets for, like, oh, something happened in Hazara something happened in Karachi. The war on terror has been going on for 20 years in Pakistan. No one's doing no bullshit.
Which is annoying, yeah.
I mean, no, forget anyone else. Is any Arab coming out? Is any Palestinian out in the streets for that? It's like, no, right? They don't care. It's not about, okay, I'm not saying I'm only going to care for you if you care for me. I'm saying like...
Again, you're not going to the root cause of the problem, right? I mean, majority of the countries that are Muslim countries that are suffering today is because of Israel. Because of the influence that they have within different countries.
What about Syria, bro? Syria, the Syrian civil war, outpouring of support from every human, from any NGO that's connected to Muslims in any way. So they were involved with that. This again... There is a double standard when it comes to like Muslims that are not Arab, and you feel it when you go to their country.
Uyghur.
I mean, that's more of a propaganda thing. Again,
again, you don't know how much of it is true because of the West media.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's something that caught on among the people. I feel like it's not just really a race thing
because there's the class intersection involved. Bro, when the white guy, when all the MSNBC is saying it, now every person here who is like, a suburban brown person, a suburban brown girl, someone with lukewarm understanding of politics, they're like, you know what? Even Ted Cruz is saying this. It must be true.
Hey man, you have Mehdi Hassan on mainstream TV, so Shia genocide should be a mainstream. Why aren't there protests for that? Mehdi Hassan is up there.
Yeah.
Again, but somehow, when you're talking about Shia genocide,
Kashmir has been going on just as long as Palestine.
Right. Mehdi Hassan, thank you for all your services.
And Kashmir, just recently, they've been having their own issues with the Indian Army for a good 2 years now. And again, I haven't seen no protests. There was internet shutdown, occupation. No one cares. No one who's not Pakistani cares. There's no Bengali person like, let go of Kashmir for obvious reasons. But let's say Indonesia, there's no Palestinians that you see here.
I agree with you on the level of there should be equality to every injustice. But again, there's stuff happening in Sudan.
It's not about equality.
There's stuff happening in Sudan.
No, I'm not saying equality.
There's stuff happening in Sudan. How many people are talking about it?
Bro, well, I mean, that proves the point then. What do you mean? Those Sudanese are not Arabs either.
So, again...
Well, I mean, at least they wouldn't be considered like that.
If you get to the root cause of the problem, that's what you need to solve first, right? I mean, that's the root cause. Is today majority of the Middle East...
people recognize that the root cause of that is the United States. The root. If you want to talk about the root cause, it's U.S. imperialism.
I'm talking about within the Asia group of things.
That's still the United States.
Yeah, the funding comes from the United States, but directly United States.
The U.S. has military base. No.
Yeah, it has bases.
Qatar is a U.S. military base. Bahrain is a U.S. military base. Kuwait is a U.S. military base.
Yeah.
South Korea is a U.S.
Iraq,
military base.
Pakistan. I mean,
when we're talking about Pakistan, because I have somewhat knowledge, I guess, because I'm pro-Pakistani as well. In the past 20 years of this whole war on terrorism, majority of the people that died were Sunni.
80,000 Pakistanis.
80,000 people that have been killed.
Ridiculous.
Majority of them were Sunni, and then obviously there were a bunch of them being Shia. Again, yes, the whole Shia conflict in Sunni, but that's what your enemies want.
I'm asking you why? I don't care.
Why are we differentiating? Why are we saying that it's Shia or why are we saying
I'm not saying Shia Sunni. You brought that up. I'm saying that if I am willing to go to a protest for whatever Arab rights or whatever Arab country is going through strife, I do not see that reciprocated in my lifetime being engaged in these subjects, in these issues, right? That there's an issue in Kashmir, there's an issue in Balochistan, Quetta. No one cares.
So the thing is, I think
outpouring of support online.
There needs to be this awareness that all of these causes are linked to the same cause of the United States, the root of the United States. And based on that understanding, people need to understand that these prongs of this imperialism are all things that need to be.
I completely agree.
I don't think so at all.
Let me ask you a question.
That doesn't mean that you need to go to every protest.
Let me ask you a question. In every country that the U.S. aid goes to, in any country, how many countries do you know that have actually come out of poverty? That
I don't know. Probably none.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine that's on purpose.
Somewhere or another, that aid isn't getting to the right people.
Yeah.
So what is
that? So okay. In majority of the African countries that you see, there's only a few set of people that are rich, right? So they basically buy out those individuals.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to get to is that the root cause is the U.S., right? When
that's
you're saying, when you're saying no, it's not.
No, that's what we're all saying.
No, I thought Hani was disagreeing to that.
No, we're all agreeing that
different.
Okay, I thought he was.
No, he's talking about he is talking about a disparity in
the conflicts and how much support it
what
gets.
people see.
No, it's just like, bro.
Do you think that's because people are less aware of those?
This again, I don't know what an individual is doing in Iraq, Lebanon, Indonesia. I know in this, let's say this city right here, forget anywhere else. You can have people come out in the streets. Muslims, let's say Muslims will come out in the streets. American Muslims will come out in the streets for what? Chapel Hill shooting, justified. They'll come out for Syria, justified. They'll come out for, I don't know, they'll come out for some other thing, bro. Anything. They'll come BLM. They'll come out for BLM
because they're going still with that tailored narrative. Yeah. The narrative is still tailored, and they're not. Very few people.
Bro, they're coming out for Palestine for a decade, but they won't come out for anything Pakistan related.
Because
they won't come out for anything
narrative about that. It's not hype to go and do a Kashmir protest unless
it's not hype. Okay, let me argue this. Let me argue to this. So for the past 15 years,
hold on, wait.
It's not hype for a reason, and it's not hype for a reason because of that thing you talked about earlier, that apathy. It's directed towards ourselves.
I disagree. I think when you're talking about we don't get enough exposure when it comes to other events. 10 years ago, when we were having Palestinian events, how many people are out there?
A lot more than there were for...
Come on, there were like... When we have these Quds rallies or Quds protests in Ramadan, how many people actually show up?
A lot more compared to the other stuff,
issues.
Right?
No, but I think when Kashmir, the rights were taken from Kashmiris, from Indian's government.
Yeah.
I think there was an outpour outside of the Pakistani.
What was the difference? Social media. That had
the Pakistani consulates, bro. That Pakistani consulate area is smaller than this backyard to fill up, bro. What are we talking about?
Even outside the Indian consulate, there was a huge number of population that was out there.
But would that have happened when the Kashmir stuff? Kashmir has been going under issues for a very long time.
Right. Before Palestine, it's an issue that precedes Palestine
by like 1 year. But
I mean, yeah. I mean, who's counting,
technically Palestine was, and the issues in Palestine have been going on since before then. They had the war in the 30s, I think, or something like that. So that's a little bit different, but. You didn't see that outpouring since 1947 for Kashmir,
bro.
Like you're saying.
You know what? Let's just forget everything we just discussed before this. Us three people sitting here right now, have we put in our man hours, our time, honestly, more towards the Palestinian cause, more towards maybe the Syrian refugee cause, which we have worked together on, or trying to spread stuff about the Yemen cause? How much of our efforts, percentage-wise, were directed towards things directly related to Pakistan? I'm not talking about Shia genocide, Kashmir, Balochistan attack, terror attack, war on terror, all this stuff.
Again, personal level.
I mean, I'm not talking about moving back.
No.
After that.
As an individual who's in Pakistan, I think I'm
that's
trying.
That's different.
And that mindset. That again, first, I mean, I get it. You know, you're right when it comes down to the amount of people that come out and support when it's related to Kashmir. How many Arabs do you see that are coming out to support the Kashmiri issue or the Sudan issue or some other issue? Sometimes even Palestinians don't come for Palestinian issues, and there's more Pakistanis there than you see.
That you're talking about a specific protest, and that has other issues.
And I get that. What I'm saying is, when it comes down to Pakistan or in African states, there's not as much as outpour as there is when it comes down to Palestine.
You know why? Because there's no movement. There's no Kashmir movement here. There is something of a Palestine movement. Something of one. There is no Sudan movement. There is no organization or even anything on the grassroots that's happening here. I'll tell you this. If there was a Pakistan movement, I'm sure I would be involved. There is a SJP. Easy for me to plug in there. There's an infrastructure. There's a program. There's stuff going on. I'm not starting much from the ground up. I'm not starting anything from the ground up there. If I do stuff, little initiatives here, there, whatever, but even any of that is because anything political I've done, actually, I don't want to say that. A lot of the political stuff that I've done has been because I have been able to plug into an already existing infrastructure. And so if you want to see something for these causes, then what you would need is to create those infrastructures. And that can start grassroots. But at least for me, I would say that I haven't done anything.
Right? I mean, why was there no movement that was created before by anyone?
It has to be done.
What is the Syrian political movement in this country?
That became a thing. People made that a thing. Free Syria. There was a hashtag. There were organizations that were doing that. There were campaigns. Organized campaigns. I think you're being unjust.
I think there has been a Kashmir hashtag as well.
I'm not talking about a hashtag, bro. I'm talking about a hashtag. Organizations that are doing this. Organizations that are specifically reaching out to media institutions to do campaigns.
Anyone and everyone South Asian diaspora in this country talk about BLM in the past 3 years.
Because BLM had a movement behind it.
Bro, thing is, that applies if you do not have context. If I'm already from somewhere and if I'm already from Houston and I know that there are issues here, obviously, I don't need the same context that someone from Florida does, right?
So as somebody from Pakistan, what opportunities are there for you or me to do something related to the Pakistan cause here in Houston? Given things as they are. Kashmir, whatever the case may be.
I think very comparable to the same as the Syrian movement.
No, but why?
Let's be honest.
Hold on.
Why? Since when did we? I don't know. At what point in your guys' lives did you think, the Syrian community in this country is very politically active, and the expat diaspora communities are very in touch and everything? It's part of the zeitgeist. When did you feel that? I never felt that.
I felt that with a lot of my friends and a lot of the people I was around in Seattle when the war in Syria broke out, that there was a pretty strong outpouring over the issue. It was something that there was a discourse about. There were organizations that were specifically pushing the issue in the media, on the ground, and I saw that with regards to Syria. I don't see that I didn't see that with regards to Kashmir. I don't see that with regards to the Shias. I don't see that with regards to Sudan, for example. With Yemen, it was very weak. I do see that for the cause of for anti-blackness here. I do see that for Palestine. I do see that for these other things. With Syria, I saw that come up very quickly. Right? It was organized very quickly. But I saw it, and it was structured. It was a thing. You could plug into it. I can't plug into anything for Kashmir right now. I would have to create that. We would have to get together and make something. And that would start as a grassroots thing.
But let's be honest.
That infrastructure is just not there right now.
Let's be honest. I don't think that the Kashmir...
Not to chalk it up all to that, but this is my...
I mean, I honestly, I feel like there is this lack of nationalism naturally amongst the
diaspora,
Pakistanis. I mean, you see it more reflected in the diaspora here, because you compare a Pakistani expat to an Indian, it's night and day, right? The level of nationalism they have. I don't mean ultra and right wing nationalism, but what do you mean? What I mean? Let me try to contextualize a little bit more.
Yeah.
If you went to, let's say, Syria, or forget Syria. Syria is still Arab. Let's say you go to any other non-Arab Middle Eastern country. You take Iran and you take Turkey.
Yeah.
Right, and you compare them to Pakistan. If you were to take the religious dynamic out of it, no one's Muslim anymore. Those civilizations have existed prior to Islam, almost. Well, at least as far as the Persians are concerned, and they have a common history, a common theme, a common language, a culture. But if you do the same thing in Pakistan, you take that...
You also come from them, right? I mean, you come from the Arab, the Turk, the
it's an amalgamation, I guess. The North Indian thing.
What do you mean?
The North Indian tradition is an amalgamation of what was there.
No, I'm not talking about tradition. I'm talking about blood as well. I mean, that's where you come from.
Well, I'm a very small minority of the North Indian,
Well, what was your point? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. But what I'm saying is, when you're saying, we're not all Muslims anymore, but...
No, he's posing a hypothetical.
I'm saying... what's it called? If you take the
Just
religious
the
dynamic out of the
civilizational.
equation for Pakistan, and you do the same thing for, let's say, the Turkey, they're still Turks without Islam.
Yeah.
There's an ethnic.
But
it's based on
Pakistanis, if you
ethnicity.
take the Islam out of it, what are you?
Pakistan is based on Islamic identity. Yeah. So then,
Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that reflects in the diaspora community here. And this how you compare the Pakistani diaspora community to the Indian. The Indian diaspora here has a much more nationalist streak in it, and you see
But
it.
I kind of disagree with you because when Imran Khan was in power, when Imran Khan was in power,
The RSS has
$15
spread its
billion
roots all over the American political system in the past decade, from Nikki Haley running right now.
oh, are you talking
feel
about
like
Indian people, or are you talking
Indian
about
people, bro?
institutions?
The highest paid ethnicity, the highest paid nationality in this country is Indian American. In that community, there is heavy support for BJP. In India itself, this country is a huge hub for RSS, right? So they have an ultra nationalist streak, as opposed to the Pakistani person living in this country, where they're much more.
I would disagree because when Imran Khan was first taken out of power, there were hundreds of people that came out.
Imran Khan was in power for like 18 months, bro. It was not that big of an issue, and people are back home immediately. No one gave a fuck. Yeah, I went to those protests too. You know what people were doing? Playing a few drums, waving a few flags, going home, taking pictures.
No, but financially as well, they sent the expats of Pakistan sent $15 billion that was in reserves for Pakistan, right? So I mean, you can't say that the nationalism doesn't exist. I mean, it does. Again, a lot of people lost money. I being one of them, because the Pakistani currency devalued by 50%. A lot of Pakistanis that sent money, they lost quite a big chunk of their wealth because they supported Imran Khan, because they supported Pakistan, and they have this love for Pakistan. I think I disagree I think the problem with Pakistan is in its root cause, where the political system is so corrupt that people don't feel like they need to come out to support Pakistan in that sense. But protests against the government, there's many people that come out. Even in Pakistan today, when the Imran Khan protest was happening, hundreds of thousands of people came out and protested against what they were doing to Imran Khan, because they felt like Imran Khan was standing at the right path, and they felt it was different than what Zardari and Nawaz Sharif were doing.
So I just want to say, like, I having never been to Pakistan before, my, I guess, understanding of certain things are a little different. Also, I grew up in a city that does not have as big of a Pakistani population as this one does, so the dynamic there is also a little different. So I feel like there may be also a disconnect between my understanding of this and kind of what you guys are saying. So I'm kind of trying to absorb.
So what Hani is also talking about, in this
I feel like I have a
that we've
different
had
conception of this
for
than
an hour
what
and a
you do.
half or 2 hours, he's talking about how many times that we mentioned Kashmir or any other country that's going through oppression.
Yeah,
but
I follow that.
At the given moment, what the media and what the social media is highlighting right now is the Palestinian issue, right? So let's talk about what the Palestinian issue is. Yes, I'm not saying that you should discredit what's happening in Kashmir, but there's always a right time and right place to have a discussion about where oppression is taking. Because right now,
it seems like there's never a time and place for certain things.
I get it. Right now, the heat isn't on. I mean, obviously,
It seems like the heat is never
it's
on.
it's never ending.
The thing is, like, it's just, I was like, right
When
now,
is the heat
the thing is,
ever
this
on?
didn't start a week ago. Kashmir's been an issue for a long time.
Let's be
now.
honest. Until bombs are dropped and people are killed,
But that's a problem.
the tension and that's normal. I mean, that's what human.
That is something to
mindset is.
overcome, though. That is something to
only applies
overcome.
if you have no relation. That makes no sense to me when you say,
Your roots are from Pakistan.
No, forget that. If you just have any any communication, any type of connection, right? You are aware of what's happening. It doesn't have to be like a bomb drop. I knew Kashmir had an issue without the bomb dropping, simply because I'm from there.
Yeah.
Right. So now I can't be like, well, yeah, I'm waiting for the bombs to drop, and then I'll think about this more. Well, maybe the white guy can claim that because he doesn't know nothing about Kashmir. How can I claim that when I'm from there?
Right.
That makes no sense.
Right. But that goes back to what I was saying, is I feel like in a random Pakistan, think of the most random Pakistani person you know. Or think of just some random, yeah. If they're going to say, hey, what can I do about this? where can they find that answer? There's no movement doing anything. So you would have to conceive of that.
I mean, again, I'm going
to
harp on this lack of nationalism again on this subject, because Imran Khan got picked up from his house or whatever. Now he's in jail. Yeah, well, if this was such a landmark thing, you would think people are in the streets for a longer period of time than a month. But no, wait, I'm gonna juxtapose this.
Saying something different.
Go ahead, continue. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe you're painting something else. What are you saying?
Okay, so I'll give you. I'm trying to figure out like the best.
While you figure that out, I'll respond to him where he's saying that there's not that many people that are.
Well, I didn't finish that yet, so don't respond to it. What were you trying to say?
So, what I'm saying is that let's say, okay, me, I am seeing that, hey, there's this issue going on in Palestine. This has constantly been going on. This is a really big problem. Something should be done about this. I feel an imperative to do something. What can I do? How can I go about doing something? Well, I am on a college campus.
Yeah.
Right? There's something there for that. Right? There's an organization that's there that's saying, hey, we recognize this issue. We want to do something about it. We're a bunch of people who have an interest in this issue for whatever reason, and we're coming together to do something. I look at that and I'm like, there we go. Here's a way for me to be able to be productive towards this. Right? When that is the case for undocumented I don't know what it is here, but like I know there are organizations that do this for like undocumented immigrants' rights, right? Somebody who's passionate about that, there is work laid out for them to be done by somebody who already kind of has it going. There is an infrastructure for that, right? If I wanted to do something for Syria, there were, and I'm sure maybe still are, but I know there was a time when there were organizations that were actively like, hey, we're doing this. Hey, we need, hey, come out. Hey. And for an average person, I see that marketing and I go, as an attendee, or do I want to become more involved? Do I want to be at the kind of forefront of this? I don't know how to go about doing that for Kashmir right now. I would either have to start something myself, or I would have to go somewhere where this kind of infrastructure exists, a different city where maybe there is an initiative for a hypothetical, like whatever the case may be. If you had to start
something and you go back to on a college campus, you're trying to start something, you would say
Free Kashmir organization,
or you'd be like, is there a Pakistani organization on this campus?
I want to talk
about
this.
And then when you get into that Pakistani organization thinking they're doing something, turns out all they're doing is dancing to Indian music.
So let me tell you my experience with that.
Right?
But then whose fault is that?
No, wait.
It's not my fault.
Let me tell you my experience with that, right?
All right.
So we had that Kashmir event at U of H. Remember that? Do you remember at with the Article 370 Modi thing? We had the thing in the theater, right? So that was a coalition of different organizations on campus, right? PSA was one of them. One of the things that I felt, a lot of these other organizations were we had already been doing like different activism stuff, right? I think the organizations that started it were ABSO, MSA, and SJP, right? Already into that kind of work. The role that PSA played, they had never, because I had reached out to them as well, that should we do something on the Kashmir issue, just because like for me it was like Pakistan, Kashmir, like, you know, what I came to realize is the role that organization plays is quite a bit different than a role like SJP plays, for example, or some other kind of, you know, and it seemed like a lot of it, there was a lot of Pakistani diaspora people whose parents were overseas, right? Their parents were overseas. They had moved here relatively somewhat recently from Pakistan. For a lot of people, it was a community, right? So that organization, I hadn't really seen them being oriented towards anything political for their own cause. It seemed like the functional purpose it served was more of a social, professional development. Now, why did it turn out like that? And why was there not a component of it where it's that I don't know, and that lends to what you're saying.
And the lack of nationalism.
That can lend to that.
And I think to agree to Hani's point, to going to the root cause.
I just wanted to parse that. Yeah,
it's how you're brought up in Pakistan. Again, that slave mentality was never finished. We still think that, you know, the white race and the people who wear pants and shirt are superior compared to the people who are wearing cultural clothes. And that mindset was brought here, and I'm sure a lot of us have relatives that live in the U.S. and the kids who have been raised here, they have no attachment to Pakistan. A lot of kids hesitate talking in Urdu or their native language, thinking that it's some sort of what's that word? Inferior language to be spoken in.
But then let me give you a flip side of that also, right? As somebody who would be considered by some people to be in that kind of a category, given that I've never been to Pakistan, my Urdu, although I would say I'm fluent, the accent comes out, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I also think I'm as close to the culture as you can be, considering you're somebody who's never been back to the home. Right? So I feel like I have that. I would say from somebody who was born and raised here, again, from a city where you don't have a Pakistani friend group who speaks Urdu with each other, right? That's something that was new to me when I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that for some of the people, there was that kind of embarrassment thing. But for other people, it was kind of like, hey, yeah, this is my cultural heritage. I'm Pakistani. Right? So I feel like there's like, you have both. I've seen kind of a different side of it, maybe because I sort of had a different experience.
And to agree to that, I think...
But I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying. I do think that is a disease that I've seen.
There's a side to both pictures, right? Yeah. As growing up, we also thought after 9/11, because a lot of idiots didn't know where Pakistan was on the map, so they always thought it was Afghanistan. It was within Afghanistan because of the Istan that comes with Pakistan. So as growing up, I also had this, I'm not Pakistani, I'm not this, I'm an American, or I'm Arab, or I'm this, or I'm that. So coming to that mindset, again, I became more pro-Pakistani as it was more batted down, right? It was
Same.
It was like, oh, you're a bad individual, you're a terrorist, you're a terrorist. And because of that, I became more passionate towards Pakistan than I ever was.
Do you think that's the case for everybody, though?
No, and that's the
I think that's not the case for the three of us. I think that's kind of why we're doing this right now.
Right. And I think a lot of, it, again, goes back to the root cause to what Hani's saying, is the reason why we don't have nationalism is because of the mindset that is put into your mind by generations that have come on board. Again, all of us, we can talk about...
How do you break the chains?
And again, we can talk about breaking the chain, question. But I've heard people say many things that lived in Pakistan saying that, there's no sight, we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel because of the things that are going on in Pakistan. Until today, there's many people that say that. But there's also an opposition end that goes, hey, we want to go help. And when they do end up going, either they get robbed, and they have this bad blood. Again, majority of the conversations that we have about Pakistan is how my phone got stolen or my wallet got stolen, right? But in a population that we live in the U.S., how many times do you see the media covering that me living in the U.S. for the past 24 years, I've been robbed on gunpoint here, right? But you don't see the media covering that. But when you go to Pakistan, everyone's like, I got robbed. But what do you think? Other countries, like in London, I've heard that people chop off your arm to take off your watch.
And stabbings, right? We talked about...
Right. So, I mean, but yet you still think that this is heaven compared to your own country, right? And that's the seed that they planted in your mind, saying that, hey, we're superior, come here and live here compared to where you're living. And I get it. I get it. There's problems in Pakistan, but again, living in Pakistan, I've realized it is the best of best lives that anyone can spend.
How so? That's interesting.
Well, I mean,
again, I've never
financially. Again, if you're financially stable in any country, you have a good life. But in Pakistan, I think it comes with more benefits than it does in the States. Then on top of that, if you want to help your community strive, or like for example, I mentioned this a lot. I've mentioned it on the TV on TV in Pakistan. Is that there's generations of kids that are growing up in Pakistan right now that are being used as child labor.
I remember saying that.
And a lot of kids are thought, and those kids have this mentality: hey, we were born as caretakers or cleaners within the houses, so we're going to continue this for generations on to come. So there's this family who there's this woman who used to come to clean our house in Karachi, and as she was coming one day, she brought her kids. And one of the biggest issues that we have in Karachi is that child labor or Pakistan, it's thought of as being normal, right? That child labor is okay.
Yeah.
So she bought her 3 daughters, and those kids were like 8, 9, 10 years old, pretty young. So as we were going around the process of getting our house clean, I saw these 3 kids come in, and I'm like, I'm not okay with them cleaning my house.
Yeah.
So I had this conversation about, do these kids want to go to school? And, the same response that we can't afford it, or we can't do this, or we can't do that type of conversation happened. And I responded back saying, no, if you're serious about going to school, come to this school tomorrow and we can talk about what they need to do to get an admission here. Now, that conversation happened about 4 or 5 years ago, and those 3 girls that went to that school were toppers last year.
Man.
Like, there were top 3 kids in that school for the grades that they're in.
Yeah.
So the potential is there, as in the kids there are very talented. They just need direction, right? From someone who has some sort of wealth that they can spread amongst the community. So I think what Hani is also saying is that, the lack of nationalism is there, but at the same time, the people who are on the grounds working within Pakistan, it's phenomenal. I mean, you look at ED Center, you look at the TCF organization, who are building schools without getting anything in return.
Right.
So I think sometimes we put that to the side and we see on a high level that Pakistanis aren't nationalists. But if you go back to Pakistan and you see how many Pakistanis have moved back to Pakistan and they're working on the ground to build Pakistan up, it's tremendous. I mean, don't judge the book by its cover. Like, I get it that there's bad things in every country. There's pros and cons, but in Pakistan, you'll see like I've had personal situations where I'm in Hunza and we're walking around, we're lost and we're hungry and we can't find a place to eat. Random people invited us into their house and fed us, right? So I mean, that love, that pride is still there. It just needs to be channelized to the right direction, rather than a lot of Pakistanis going, "Oh yeah, the government is corrupt." Okay, yeah, it is. How do you solve that issue? Do you focus on the corruption, or do you become one of those examples? And one of the reasons why I got that little viral video go on is because I was pumping fuel into people's car, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't a big initiative, but again, like Hani mentioned, that guy in Florida who passed out ice cream, and people saying, "Oh, is that going to resolve the issue?" Was it Florida?
Hygiene kits or whatever.
Yeah, hygiene kits, or Is that going to resolve anything? It's not.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're out there helping, and you don't want them to become, used to free handouts. No one wants to do that.
That's not the point.
Right? But you want to make them feel like, hey, there are people that care about.
You want to alleviate for however much you can.
Right.
So
those kids, and after those 3, many more got added. Where we're putting in school. Yeah. And mashallah, if you look at their their results that are coming out of their school, it's amazing. So that opportunity, so the oldest girl out of those 3 wants to become a doctor. In the long term, when you see generational shift. Yeah, it's a generation shift where now her lineage will not be cleaning people's houses. Yeah. They'll be fixing people medically, right? Yeah. I mean, in her wildest dreams, she comes up to me and she says that, I couldn't have imagined going to a school like this. And again, it's not something that I'm doing. The reason why whoever's going to be listening to this, there's always things that we can solve. But when we're saying, oh, these issues exist, are we looking within our own collar and we're saying that, okay, we're not part of the problem? Because a lot of these kids who go clean houses are your house, my house, that neighbor's house, right? That neighbor's saying that these problems exist, but they're not doing anything to resolve it. Right, I mean, they'll point out those issues.
Cleaning their house,
but they have their this little 9-year-old girl cleaning her house, but his daughter is sitting there watching TV. Would you ever allow your own kids
crazy
to do that to someone else's house?
And for that to be normal, right? Is wild.
So in that perspective, I think education is key to the problem, and then financially, if you're capable, then there's many things that you could do in Pakistan. And again, Pakistan is known to be a third world country by the West, but it's the most charitable, the most giving out in charity country in the world. One of the biggest countries that give out charities. So I mean,
interesting.
You have that pool of crowd, and then you have that pool of crowd that has that mentality that lives in the West.
Yeah, that kind of slavish type of thing.
Yeah.
I think we'll definitely explore more on how I believe that is a very unique thing to us and how we're imbeciles.
Peasants.
That would be too generous. I mean, to wrap it up, I mean, I'll provide my perspective quickly on that. I feel like as a Pakistani, that is, it's kind of shameful for us to claim any of that stuff because you have India right next door, Bangladesh right there, who, I mean, Bangladesh is a product of kind of like our own failure as a country, and you see them advancing in all other facets. So then it's like, well, hey, we're mentally colonized, as if like Bangladesh has had sovereignty since for whatnot. So I feel like there's a lot of excuse making as a nation from us, and yeah, there's a lot of charity being given, but again, something like Imran Khan getting picked up, bro. Brazil is a comparable size of a country, similar issues, one of the most dangerous countries in the world. Lula da Silva got picked up. They had fascism for years, and well, he's out of jail now. He's running the country again. That country persevered through bad times, and you will see nations that are of a similar ilk to Pakistan, Afghanistan next door, India, Bangladesh, China. They got independence around the same time, if not later, and they were also colonized. I mean, but they just have that fighting spirit that we lack as a nation because it is such an artificial, like settler colonial establishment, so to speak, almost. Right? It's not colonial, but definitely a settler state. It's very...
No, but you talk about excuses, but I think there's a big hand in the outside world that has an impact on Pakistan's economy.
Oh, only on Pakistan. We're the only people in the world that other people care about.
It's not the only country
for those who are...
How is Bangladesh able to go fight through flooding every year and fight through oppression and fight through colonialism and getting independence 25 years after us?
No, okay, so whoever might be listening to this, if you want to look at impacts, go look at BCCI Bank. Just one prime example of what happened in Pakistan. One of the fastest growing banks in the 90s and the 80s, the largest bank, and it was shut down by the West, saying that they had embezzlement of funds and they were funding terrorists, and they shut down the bank. Again, about a $40 billion bank in the 80s, Pakistani Rand was shut down overnight, and Pakistan couldn't do anything about it. So again, there's a huge impact from the outside world to why your economy
sounds like
wasn't
it
able
sucks to suck because again, external affairs affect every single country in the world. And if it's like, oh, we played this game and we lost, we keep on losing. At one point, you're the issue. And with Pakistan specifically, like, yeah, you're the one saying. I mean, you're saying it right now, and you're correct. It's one that gives year after year. Sending charity back home, all this revenue going back home, and what's the outcome? The country, I mean, this is not hey, we've been protesting for 30 years. I'm saying this Islamic State project has been a failure since day one, and it just keeps on devolving because of, honestly, in my opinion, you kind of voiced something that I, thought about earlier, is this like concept of Ummah or something like, these people are our people. Listen, bro, you're your own people. No one's claiming your ass. No one else cares about you. No one's coming here protesting for you. And throughout world history, whenever you run into some weird shit, China is there for your ass. But no Arab country's coming and saying anything.
I think there's a bunch of things you're conflating, and I feel like that's reductive also.
And then also,
elaborate on that.
Okay, these borders are man-made, right?
It's a multifaceted thing. So
these borders are man-made, right? I mean, we as Muslims, as Muslims, we believe that the dunya is created by Allah, right? And the whole dunya is for everyone to live in, right? This mindset of I'm in Pakistan, so I'm just gonna focus on the Pakistan issues is an issue by itself.
That's not even the point.
Okay, that's not what I was saying.
I think that's the misconstruction of the point, right? Okay. It's not. Look, there's multiple facets to this, and I won't claim that I can name off all of them. But to pretend like, it's like, oh, well, you only have to focus on one thing and the other stuff has to go on the side or something. That's not what anyone's saying. No. It's saying, hey, is it reciprocal? Again, I'll reduce it down to us three people, bro. If you're Arab and I'm coming to your, whatever the hell is going on, and I noticed year after year you're not coming through to our thing, I'm going to ask you, why is that the case? Why the disparity?
But I'm going to ask you, what is our thing? There is no our thing. That's what I'm saying.
Then you can share that sentiment in action too then, right? What do you?
You're saying when we're thinking that it's our thing, why isn't that the other side is thinking it's our thing?
Oh, also these man-made borders.
No, that's what I got out of what you were saying. Is that why isn't he responding the same way?
Again, let's just reduce it down. If it's us three people and you're holding a protest, you're a Palestinian, and I show up to your thing.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Your thing. It is your struggle. Yes. I am supporting.
Yeah.
And now when I say, okay, well, there's a protest for Kashmir out here. And I noticed only this guy came. You didn't come. Okay, one time. Next year, too. And we were repeating this thing. Okay. Over time, my question to you is, why are you not supporting me on this cause when I'm supporting you on something that doesn't directly affect me either? Now, I want you to extrapolate that example for 70 years and now hundreds of millions of people. And that's a legitimate complaint that I think, our state, our country, which is artificial, it's constantly.
Wait, so are you saying our country, which is artificial, is a failed country? But why aren't people protesting for it?
No,
or part of the reason is that there is no international support. That's what I'm trying to.
No, I'm saying it's an artificial country. Obviously, it's a settler state.
Yeah,
but part of the reason, it's a kind of like a feedback loop almost of sorts. It's a settler state. There's no natural national identity.
Right.
But when there's a common struggle which does mold communities into nations, there's no support from the people that you've been supporting all this time or hanging your hat on, right? And that goes back, you was talking about this Ummah thing. That thing that exists in Pakistan, extrapolate that.
Well, I want to address even in the diaspora you posed.
Even in the diaspora, you find this affinity towards if you're Shia like Iran, or if you're Sunni towards Saudi or some of the GCC states. And I find even that to be kind of a lack of national identity, because none of those people would ever claim you or claim your. No one's ever hey, I love Pakistani culture. Let me wear Pakistani clothes. But so
I agree.
No, but you said you had a counterpoint to that.
He's saying basically what you were saying was when the argument was happening is that if you think that it's a failed state. And again, it's an artificial boundary, right, that we've made. If it's a failed state, is it because there's lack of support internationally, or there's a lack of support domestically?
No, so this was my base contention with the thing you just posed. I'm a Palestinian. I have these protests. I'm like, hey, you Pakistani, come through. You always come through. You were saying, when you tell me, hey, come out for Kashmir, year after year, and you don't see me come through, there's obviously going to be a sentiment of what the hell. Now, the issue that I take with that scenario that you posed is year after year there is a Palestine protest. I know where to go. As a Pakistani, I know where to go. As a Palestinian, year after year there is not a Kashmir protest. I know nothing about Kashmir. There is no, and as a Palestinian, naturally, I'm going to know more about Palestine than I know about Kashmir. There is nothing on the media about it. It's not a topic in common discourse in the United States in the way that Palestine is. It's not, I have some Pakistani friends, but as you yourself said, they're not too keen on talking about their thing, right? And so I don't even know what a Kashmir is.
I know, that's a fair point.
And that people don't even know if Kashmir exists.
How many people, that Kashmir event was so cool to me. One of the reasons was, and to everybody who organized it, we were afterward we talked about how many people did not know a thing about South Asia and its history and its politics. And that came out of that, and who were yo, that was really crazy. That was really cool.
So whose fault is that?
But wait, let me say one thing.
Whose fault is what?
That people don't know about Kashmir.
It is the Pakistani diaspora in this country.
So therein lies the problem.
That is because their organizations on campuses and are working are too busy dancing the Indian music.
So is that the fault of the Palestinian for not coming to a Kashmir protest that doesn't exist?
And I'll tell you why it's both.
When they don't even know what a Kashmir is.
I'll tell you why it's both. Because again, like
you don't have to go out of your way to know about Palestine, right? I mean,
no, it's like we sat down. We knew about this at a young age. I hope like no one was like, oh, I found out about this. My parents didn't sit me down and talk about Palestine or something.
Yeah,
and I didn't sit down and listen to CNN.
Yeah.
You're a curious mind. You're like intellectual curiosity.
Well,
you go and you find out.
What may be
things.
a bit different between somebody like you and the average person there. I'm just gonna say that.
I mean, and
somebody
the reason
like me
why you also see that hype, right?
There is a difference there.
Also, the reason why you see that hype of what's happening with the Palestinians is because it's visual, right? It's out there. It's constantly being posted by.
So no one can escape that.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have curiosity.
But with Kashmir,
it's right there.
You know, I guess maybe a different example altogether can illustrate the point.
Sure.
In the past 3, 4, 5 years, when this BLM thing was at its peak. When it's at its peak, and again, I'm someone who, supported the movement, I'm not talking about the organization. I noticed in my own friend circles, Shia, Sunni, Hindu, whatever you are, you supported BLM for the most part, okay? Makes sense. Right? Shia, Sunni, Sunni, Pakistanis.
Whatever demographic.
Those same people, and I would say, let's take the Shias out of it because that's a vested interest. Whether it's Sunni or even like the Hindus and stuff, they would not be talking about things like Shia genocide or the Kashmir issue.
True.
And if the excuse is, well, I didn't, or the Palestinian didn't know, these guys didn't know about it or something, that's not an excuse. It is something much more deeply entrenched than that. It's not, I did not know. It's not intellectual curiosity that's lacking. There's something, and I think you might have put it very succinctly. It was the apathy part. It is the apathy, and it's just only directed towards ourselves for the most part.
And what is the root of that?
I mean, I feel
or what? And I don't think there is maybe a root. What could be? What are the roots?
Well, I think we already talked about.
Right?
I mean, we already mentioned that.
So you're saying like this is generationally programmed product of colonialism,
brainwashing.
What do you see as
happening.
like? Where do you see that?
I don't find that to be the case because you don't see that in Bangladesh.
But where do you see?
Okay, but let me ask you a question.
I'll ask you this: if it's generations of colonial brainwashing, why don't the Bengalis have that? Why is their nation prospering?
So what is it? Yeah, that's what I want to see.
For me, it is. Yeah. I mean, again, Pakistan has Pakistan itself is a very a specific type of as in it's very.
It doesn't
unique.
have a foundational basis for somebody to.
Yeah, it is very much. I mean, the only thing comparable to Pakistan is Israel. To be honest, as the formation of a state, how artificial it is. Not every line is artificial.
No, I'm following. Yeah,
but this state is based in on land that on it did not. This is completely like the Israeli state, so
not
its position will always stay like this. It will always be up in the air because you can't impose that kind of state on people. It's just not gonna last. If you, I mean,
kind of lost to what state?
Why?
It's not gonna last.
What would not last?
An artificial state imposed upon a population that it is disconnected from. How would that run? I mean, isn't that the argument against Israeli solvency?
Do you think that? I don't know.
I think also
the Pakistani state right now governs over all these ethnicities and caters to how many of them?
Probably the elites, that's for sure.
And what do the rest of the populace do?
Work for the elites.
And how long do you think this can? These elites are. I mean, there
could be a revolution. Yeah, but I don't think the state could.
A revolution takes a backbone from societies, and again, I said it before. You could see a revolution in Afghanistan. These people have been beating empires for centuries. You can see a revolution in freaking anywhere else, Turkey, Iran, anywhere. You can't see it in Pakistan because there is no commonality.
No, but there is, even if you say it's a contrived one.
Or let me rephrase it real quick. There is no vested interest in the solvency of the state.
Why?
because the state does not have a vested interest in the people either. The human material is not what's being invested into. The state is artificial. I mean, like, and we might need like a sit down.
But it's created, and so I'm saying now there is something.
What is it?
I think what's keeping
the
Pakistan
state itself
together
by it, what its identity is.
I think what's keeping Pakistan together is what it was founded upon. Right? I mean,
my sense is that people still have a sense of, everyone loves Qaid-e-Azam. Everyone enthusiastically talks about.
I don't know what the public,
people that I know,
obviously, this far removed from Qaid-e-Azam. I'm not sure what the public sentiment would be right now if you polled someone or something. But at the time of partition, most of the people that this was an imposed state, including Qaid-e-Azam.
I understand. I'm saying post.
People.
I'm saying post. I'm saying today.
I don't know.
I'm saying today. Do people in Punjab say? Do people in Sindh say? Do people in KP? I know some people in KP say. I know some people in Balochistan say. Screw this Pakistan thing, man. Like, I have nothing to do with these people. This is something that was imposed on me, less than 100 years ago. Yeah, some people in KP say that. Some people in Balochistan say that. I don't really know if people you would know better, right? But at least here, my understanding, and I'm not hearing that here, right? I don't know any Pakistani
in general,
who has
I don't think
that
there's any
view.
Population that down or frowns upon. I mean, even
unless
today,
you're talking about BLA or something like that.
The World Cup that was happening, right? The whole Cricket World Cup that was happening, and the whole sajda that Rizwan or other players did. And then when Shami was doing it, he stopped midway and got up and he's like, okay, I'm going to have a backlash if I go down and put my head on the floor, right? Because of the whole conspiracies that happened with Rizwan doing it when he hit a century or whatever the case was. After that, there was a huge viral video of Shami not being able to do sajda within the stadium because it could have a backlash. So that two-state theory was actually, that narrative was pushed again, saying, hey, this is why we separated from India.
Well,
I feel like
I want to close this at some point on the note that the two-nation theory. When Bangladesh got created in 1971, that theory got disproved automatically.
Now, I will say that I am in support of a three-nation theory because I think it was Bose's brother, if I'm not mistaken, one of the Bose people who was like, hey, we should have like a Bengal.
It was bound to break the way
the
geographic location was. It was bound to break eventually. And the West also knew that. They gave you, now imagine this is your house and your garage is like a mile away. How many times are you going to go to that garage? Right? Not that many times. And that's exactly what happened during the partition between Pakistan and Bangladesh, right? And we were at fault. I mean, majority of that issue was Pakistan forced issue where you were forcing a political party upon another party when they had actually won.
They should have had their own country.
At the time of 60s and 70s, actually even in 80s, there was this concept of saying, you're not even worth 2 takas, meaning that the worth of taka at the time was less than
what's taka?
The currency in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And at the time, rupee was worth more. So when Pakistanis would insult someone, be like, "Hey, you're not even worth 2 takas, man." And then now the taka is valued at a higher value. So I agree with many points that Hani has. But again, I feel like still till today, Pakistanis have this strong belief that they support the whole partition and they support where Pakistan is today. Again, they don't support where Pakistan is today, but they have this mindset where eventually and possibly in this theory where Pakistan will be a Islamic country and it will be a prospering country eventually. And inshallah, hopefully that does become the case. Again,
yeah.
No, continue. No, go ahead. Sum it up.
No. I need 2 seconds. Continue. So.
And from my end, how I would sum it up for Pakistan, Palestine, and all these issues is, as individuals, as Sean and all of us discussed, that as individuals, what are we doing to make an impact? And I don't think personally, that anyone should think, oh, I'm just one person. What impact can I have? There's many that have started from being one to many, right? So don't have that mindset of saying that, I'm just one individual. I won't be able to make any change.
Yeah. Basically, what I wanted to say about this was, what
are you trying to say?